So you're not saying that you're starting with this channel and you're ending with that channel.
I see.
You're starting with a channel that will keep you in the market because you have come to that market to stay, while looking for other alternative channels to grow.
Distribute.
Some of the retail data we get or even census that we do, those are just top of the market data.
Often speculative.
Yeah, a lot of the 90% flows through the informal market, informal trade. And those are not accounted for.
They're not being captured properly, yeah.
Exactly. So what makes you different with the skill there is understanding what is happening in that market than the depth of the data, and understanding it very fast with speed of time.
If I'm doing East Africa, what's my rule of engagement? If I'm doing West Africa, what's my rule of engagement? If I'm doing North America, what's my rule of engagement? Especially as an African. Beyond Transactions podcast is a podcast powered by Digital. The point of this podcast is to have conversations with innovators and actual builders who understand what the market truly feels like across all the tiers of retail technology, every layer of this industry that feels very separated, where they can all be collected and converge as one. The hope is that as we have these conversations, you are able to see where your business lies and where you can play efficiently across the entire retail chain. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you, Scott, for inviting me.
You're welcome. I always enjoy our conversations, and I'm happy that this is not the first time that we're getting to converse. My hope is that we get to go as deep as possible, especially the way it is when we talk privately. I would like it to get as deep as that. My first curiosity is in an industry that I know that you have very strong strength in, with the role that you play in FMCG. Right, there's a deep understanding of product you've brought to market. I've seen you bring new products to market. I've seen you make those products spread and expand. But there's always that question of how does it really, the journey, the experience to take a product from manufacturing to shelf, and then to see it leave shelf and really have impact in real market. What's that journey really like? Because it's easy to say import it, talk to somebody. What's the real journey behind getting a product from manufacturing down to consumers?
So, okay, I'll take it from this angle. When you first of all nurse the feeling of bringing a product to a market, I think the first thing you should check is, are there consumers for that product in that market? When you understand whether we have consumers, that's the first step. That means there is a need for that product. Then you start sourcing the product. And in sourcing the product, you need to understand pricing. Because let's say, for example, a product like this shoe I'm wearing now, let me just give it as an example. When I bought it, I checked where it was manufactured. It was manufactured in Brazil. Nice. And you can see the same type of shoe manufactured in Vietnam, manufactured in China. The market you're bringing the product, you need to check the effective cost or cost-effective market you have to source from. For example, I bought this in the US. Brazil is in South America and is close to the United States, the North American market. So probably it makes cost-effective sense to get this product to Brazil, to United States. If I was bringing this product to the Nigerian market and I have this, let's say this exact company also manufacturing in China, I don't think it will make sense for me to source from Brazil. So I have to understand the pricing, where is the best place for me to source. If it's an international brand that you're bringing into the country, yes. I think that's the first step. So you've identified that there is a need for the product. You've identified the best place to source this product.
The product from.
Yes. And when you bring in the product into the country, I'm putting away regulations and every other things. Let's say they're all in place and it's not a niche brand that you're bringing in. You bring in this product. Let me just take it back a bit now. There are different types of products that you look at. So when you're dealing with this, you have to go in depth. I'll give an example from the shoe. If it's, let's say, a spice product I am bringing in, if I am to bring in a finished product of spice, for example, into the Nigerian market, I have to pay more.
Really?
Yes, they're seeing it as a finished product. Okay. But if I bring in, let's say, the same product, the spices or herbs, let's say I'm shipping from India and I bring it in bags, they are seen as raw material. And I do my finishing, bottling them and packaging them in Nigeria here. Yes. So what they are looking at the product now is raw material. So these are the things you need to check. And all these things goes into your costing and your pricing. So when you look at it, you will now be able to think of the exact strategy for you to bring in this product. Let's say you get the finished product, you've done your assignment, you've done all these things, and you bring in the product into Nigeria. The next thing is, for you, I always tell people that when you bring in a product, you need to understand the regulatory framework that shapes that product. If there are no regulations in a product, it is your duty to see what are the other products that are close to that category that can help you know how to function in that product. So you put that in place, then we start talking about distribution. You now understand what channel is the best to distribute this product. Largely in Nigeria, I would say we have the informal and formal trade. And the formal trade we all know is modern trade. But you will see that e-commerce is also growing now in Nigeria, is really growing. Yeah. But the informal trade still takes about 90% of the market.
Very true.
Yes. So if you understand the channel where you want the product to be, because each product have its own specificness, and where it will function better. Identifying the channels you want this product to be in. Let's say it's a product that will function well in the informal trade and on the formal market, open market and all. So you now have to build the model you want to use to penetrate the open market. If it is the retail chain, you have to build the model. What kind of retail chain are you looking at? In Nigeria now, I say there is a retail disruption that is going on, and I'm loving it. So you need to understand the model for the retail chain you want to go into. Identifying these different channels will enable you to know where to place this product. Let's say, for example, that you identify that your product does not want to go into open market, that you want this product to go solely into the retail. And the first thing that comes to your mind is, what I want to achieve is visibility and distribution. I'll start looking at which of the retail chains am I going to look at that cuts across the country. Let's say I want to get this product to the northern part of Nigeria immediately. I'll take, for example, Market Square. Market Square is everywhere up to Bono in Maiduguri. So if I am going to be able to get this product into Market Square, I'll be able to serve somebody in the northern part of Nigeria, and I have achieved distribution. So I tell people that when you're thinking about a product and you want to get it in the market, write down the exact things you want to achieve. Is it distribution first that you want to achieve? Is it getting it to the last mile? That will be what will inform you in the kind of distribution model to go through. Yeah. And if maybe, let's say you're getting to the last mile, you can do secondary distribution. You can get distributors across states and attach, let's say, reps to them to get into the neighborhoods. So it's a whole lot of ecosystem, but it's, first of all, identifying the things you want to achieve, and then you go from there.
So it's a curious thing, right?
Yeah.
Because I like how you describe the way it works here. Within the African context, typically, when you think about bringing a product in certain markets, you already know that you should focus within retail, because retail would do high distribution. But it's funny that when it comes to the Nigerian markets, you have to focus on the open markets because the greater population exists in the open markets. So now, is this category driven? Like the decision that we're talking about in terms of choosing retail or open markets, is this category driven or is this market driven? Is it because our market is more functional within the open markets?
I don't want to say it's a Nigerian thing. I want to say that every market have its own peculiarity. And the first thing is understanding what works for your market. There are markets, even if it's, let's say that the open market or the informal trade controls more of the market. Is that what your product needs? I launched the product 4 years ago. It's a niche brand. It's a nicotine brand, I have to say it out.
I actually want to talk about that.
Yeah, it's a nicotine brand. And it is not the, it is a nicotine it's a class of nicotine brand that is new to the African market. And some African market it's I won't say it is advanced, it's not new to them, but in Nigeria it was purely solely new. I won't take that product to the open market because they don't know what it is. And anybody that looks at it, it was an e-cigarette, a vape, would think that it's going to do well in probably the HoReCa channels. We have the clubhouses, the restaurant. But it won't give you the volume you're looking for. It will give you the numbers. And when I looked at the strategy, I was like, the best thing for me to do is take this product to the retail chains. Now, the people you're looking for are there. They're able to assess the product. For the vapes, the people I am looking for to sell this product to are the young buyers, the convenient buyers.
Okay.
They will go to the store.
Who use retail stores, yeah.
Yeah, and they will see it. I have to go one step further. It's not just taking it to the retail stores. How am I going to be sure that this product is in front of them? So even if I take it to the retail store, identifying that it is the retail stores that I need to sell this product to, I also need to find a way to make sure that my consumers get to see this product. Yeah. And then that's when you start talking about probably joint business plans of maybe get visible boxes that you can place at the point of sales so that people can see this to drive impulse selling and all. So, yeah.
Okay, so I'm happy you kind of moved to the nicotine subject because I want to talk about that briefly before I get to the next question.
Okay.
I was curious because knowing the class of products it's funny because in the open markets, believe it or not, more than 65% of people within the open market actually consume nicotine-based products. However, I saw your strategy. I also saw that you did not go for the open market. And I was curious why. Why did you choose a more formal means of distribution when statistically and data-wise, it seemed like more people will consume it in the open market?
So, one, you look at the kind of product it is. Secondly, you look at the pricing. If you're comparing it to, let's say, cigarettes, someone can easily buy cigarette, a stick in the market and use and go. Is the person willing to part away with a lot of money at that point
to consume the same thing? To
consume the same thing. So you look at the pricing, you look at how you're placing the product, and you look at the long run, because of this is a niche brand, and it is still new in this market. When people there are people you say, oh, do you know vape? They don't know what it is. So that means there is the education part that have to go on. And how will you do it? You will start with the people that understand this product, to the people that don't even understand it, to people that just say it's a lifestyle. And for a product not to, I don't want to digress, but for a product not to have regulation currently, when it came into a country, we show you that, it was not even a thing.
A subject matter.
Yeah. So you have to go where people already identify with this. And in growing that brand, you start penetrating other channels. So you're not saying that you're starting with this channel and you're ending with that channel. I see. You're starting with a channel that will keep you in the market because you have come to that market to stay, while looking for other alternative channels to grow.
Distribute. I see. You said something. I'm liking this because you keep saying things that I would have to come back to, right? Okay. You mentioned, and it doesn't have to be this brand, generally, right? You mentioned bringing in product that there are no regulations in place at the time. And this is one funny thing, right? In another episode, we talked about how policies usually lag innovation. We talked about how sometimes you will not get the policy in place until the innovation has happened. How do you, for someone like you who is really in the market, you've been doing a lot of sales, you've been doing a lot of product introductions, right, into new markets. How do you deal with product like that where there are no regulations and you are probably the first mover? Where do you cut the line in, or where do you even place the line?
So experience is the fastest teacher.
Okay.
And naturally, I don't like excuses, and I don't want to be tagged a failure. Yeah, so anything I know that will make me to look like a failure, I asked myself 1,001 questions on how to avoid that. And when you bring in a product into a country and it is not regulated, that shows that it is not a way for, it is not, sometimes people see it as it's not a good area to go to. But if you find yourself in such a situation and you have a product like that, the best thing for you to do is to ensure that these regulations are put in place. What regulations do to product is that it brings in more investors. It cleans up the gray areas. It shows that the lifespan of this product, it's going to be long. But if there are no regulations that govern a product, you're not sure of what to expect in that product. So when for the nicotine that made you to ask me this question, when we launched the product, there were no regulations. There were existing regulations on nicotine, but this is a nicotine-related product. So it does not mean that those type of countries or such countries will not have regulations. No, they will have regulations on such product, but there has not been a need to have a regulation on this such product.
Brand of it,
exactly. So I remember going to SON in Lekki, and I met them. I said, we're bringing in this product. We believe in following regulatory bodies and every other things. What they said, oh, there are not regulations to this. So people in commercial should not see themselves different from the policy makers. I call it like a 360 ecosystem. I can't exist without you. You can't exist without me. So if there are not regulations, what have you done? Have you pushed for it? Have you sat at a table to discuss this? And when these regulatory bodies are being formed, or the policymakers are there, you from the industry is there. This has been happening in Nigeria, so it's not a new thing. They call it technical committee. SON does it a lot, and I applaud them for that. So when we see that there is a new product, they try to form technical committees around that product to be able to form regulations. And whenever a product starts gaining traction in a market, to the extent that now they're having to set up technical committee to form regulations, is a good indicator. Because if it's not gaining traction, if consumers are not seeing using it, the policymakers, the regulatory bodies will not care to make regulations about it. So if you push for it and they're sitting on it and they're calling you to the table to come and speak on it, it's a good traction that you're heading on the right direction. Yeah.
Oh, I see. I like this because this comes back to exactly what this podcast focuses on.
Yeah.
Earlier when we were talking, you mentioned the new wave in retail. And I want us to kind of go into that a bit. I noticed that you kind of brought it in and then jumped out of it, but I want us to come back into it. With the new wave of retail and what we see happening, especially globally, right? There's a huge shift in how it's happening. Are you seeing that same shift really impact the African space? There's the idea of this is how retail is in the global market, right? And it's shifting. Are we seeing that same shift here? If we are, what is it like here? If we're not, what's stopping us?
Okay. Can I bring it down to the Nigerian market before I take it to the other African market? Because, let me just take other African market before I bring it down to the Nigerian market. I feel that other African markets like South Africa, Kenya, the East African regions are more advanced in the retail and modern trade than the Nigerian market. Then I'll bring it down to Nigeria. Years back, let's say 15 years ago, would you walk into a supermarket to buy everything, or you prefer going to the open market?
Open markets for most of my stuff, open market for sure.
You go to the open market?
Yes.
Today?
Supermarket,
okay. So I always tell people that the Nigerian retail story is kind of told falsely.
Yeah.
Because I always like working with data than what you say. The Nigerian annual retail spend, I think, is estimating around 100 billion naira plus, thereabout. And out of this total retail spend, modern trade contributes just 10%.
Of the entire spend. Interesting.
And the other 90% comes from informal trade,
Informal
open
trade.
market, kiosk, and thereabout.
Over $19 billion unaccounted for.
Yes.
Interesting.
So, no, like in the 100 billion,
Yeah.
10%
It's for formal, yeah.
just come from modern trade. About 10% of it. And in just 10%, Lagos alone contributes about, I think, 47.5%.
Within the 10%.
Yes, I have to fact check it. Yeah, I think 47.5% around that. The last time I checked. So now, if you're leaving the city and where you are, will make you feel
That everyone is consuming in supermarkets. I see.
Do you understand it? But at the same time, when I started sales and key account, and what is happening now is totally different. When I started, it's more of the foreign brands.
That dominated
the market.
Yeah.
But today, the story is different. It's more of the local brands that dominates the market. And what these local brands, they are doing, I wouldn't say that it's a patriotism something that, oh, we want to patronize the local brand. You see that in some markets. Yes, like in Kenya, they prefer patronizing their own home-owned brands. Yeah. But it's not what is happening in Nigeria. When I look at what some of these domestic chains are doing, they're I mentioned it before. Yeah, and I'm excited about it. Before, they are no longer playing the Lagos mall store playbook. We used to call them standalone outlets before. But now you will see that these standalone outlets are becoming chains. Yeah. They're not playing in the mall. Yeah. So I look at it from two angles. One, I say they are doing a very good pricing model that is different from what we know in the retail chains. And they're doing location-driven strategies. Nice. So for the location-driven strategies, I mentioned what they're doing with standalone outlets. Before Just Right, when you think of Just Right, you think of the stores that are Idimu, inside Lagos, and Ogun State, and all those parts. When you think of Market Square, you think of South, or it's in Port Harcourt. But today, the story is different. Market Square is everywhere. I think they're the largest in having number of stores in different locations as of today in Nigeria. They're everywhere. When you look at Boko, since 2022 till date, I think Boko have more than 100 stores. In the entire country or just Lagos? Yeah, I think in Lagos. I don't know whether, so I have to go back and fact check my data, but I don't know whether they have started moving towards other places. The last time I checked, I know they opened like 2 DCs. I don't know if they've added another DC. Those people, they're moving faster than time. Yes, they're moving very fast. Yeah, and you will see that I'm still talking about location strategy. Yeah. You will see how these people are now like opening up. What Boko is building, you can't call it before. You can't say it is a supermarket. They set up a building, you don't have a lot of shelves, you have pallets everywhere, and they're selling. Everywhere. They're running, I just said Boko is the Audi of Nigeria. Yeah, before you move from here to here, you see a Boko next to you. Yeah. And that's the model. They're everywhere. They want to be in your faces. And when you come to pricing, look at what Boko is doing. I call them, I don't say Boko is another retail story. I said they're doing distribution disruption. Because of how they're expanding? I'm not talking about pricing. Not because of how they're expanding. For Boko, consumers that are price sensitive are looking at this place as the best place for them to buy something. And they are very strategic. They know the essentials needed. So it's not like the normal retail chain that you say, oh, everything is there. They know the essentials needed. So a consumer that is price sensitive, that's their first choice. And at the same time, they are now also servicing the informal traders, some of them. So they are no longer now the retail chain that you go to buy. They are fighting the open market. They are fighting the retail chains. Market here.
That's
They're standing in the
interesting.
middle. So it's a pricing model strategy that you're looking at there.
What's the biggest disruption for the African market? Because it sounds like pricing is what is switching habits. Is that the biggest disruption for us?
It's not. There are a lot of factors to it.
Okay.
There are a lot of things you put in place when you want to buy something. It can be pricing. It can be nearness to you. It can be your convenience. Do you understand? And it can be behavioral pattern of the people. There was a time I was having a discussion with you, and you mentioned that how the Easterners buy things or how they want to do business is different from how the Northerners want to do business. Yeah. So it's not just about pricing, but it's understanding the problem and pinching it.
Within each. Yeah. Okay, so you said something about my experience, and I want to come to that now. Okay. It's curious because when I buy, there are days where, okay, let's talk about where I eat, because I think I eat more than I buy. So where I eat, I have places where I would go really far to eat, and oftentimes it's not because they have the best food. The food is good, and oftentimes it's not because they have the best ambience. So it's not those things, and sometimes they even cost more than the people closest to me, right? So it's also not a pricing thing. It's often because of the way the people who served me there or serviced me there acted a certain way I feel in tune with. Where do you think, because in all of this, we've talked about the big drop, the massive distribution, where does the customer service or customer experience or interaction come in when it comes to sales? Because I know you're a sales expert, and the one thing I've seen with salespeople is they just want to get it to people's hands. How much do you care about the people when they receive it? All right. So looking at someone like me now, who when I buy, many of my decision is driven by the people who sold to me, how they sold to me, the experience I got.
So the thing is, let me correct a notion here. Many salespeople don't care about just putting the product.
They do care afterwards?
They care about after purchase.
Okay.
That's what keeps you in the market. If I sell a brand to you, or if I sell a product to you, and you use the product and you don't come back, you're taking me out of the market.
You're losing the market. Okay, I like that. So customer centricity is important.
Yes.
How does that play a role?
So, this is not my core area, but I have to say something. It now boils down to, when you're looking at distribution channel and every other thing, you said you have a preference of a restaurant that you go to buy. The restaurant owner has its values, core values, and it knows that some of the things that keep bringing these people back is my customer service, right? So if they don't have good customer service, they're already putting themselves out of business. And in turn, I cannot sell to them. So for us, we kind of manage the relationship from our end to the first distributor. The distributor wants to be in market. They manage their own end, how they, from their own to
the final consumer. So you care about how the distributor interacts with, and you think this is an important thing?
Yes, because when you sell a product to a distributor that doesn't understand the product they're selling, there is a gap. So they need to see this product as their own. They need to, when a distributor loves a brand, you see some people when you go to buy something, they'll tell you, use this one, use this one. Yeah. I've used it because they're seeing it as their brand. So sometimes it goes beyond just seeing it as their brand. It's about having a very good product, having a very good sales team.
Okay. What happens when it comes to the final leg where the customer purchase, right? Customer's purchase is strictly need-driven, right? Sometimes you see that even when because it is strictly need-driven, you have to manage bad customer experiences, right? Take medical care, for example, or pharmaceutical, right? Sometimes the experience is not great with the different spot, but because the pharmaceutical product is something you need, right? You need it. It's not a choice. You cannot go, this person didn't sell to me well, so I won't buy. My question here is, does the concept of paying attention to your distributor and their relationship with customers, is it product driven as well, or is it generic? Like,
it's generic,
no matter
because
what?
Even if you need medications, for example, malaria drug, Amatem is there. Luta, there are a lot of them. There's competition in the market. So I have to still talk to you to buy my brand. If I come to the shelf and I'm seeing that another brand is selling and my own is still sitting there, there's something going on. So it's
So you still do the same thing no matter the
It's-
type of
yeah,
product.
it's
Interesting,
everywhere.
interesting. All right, so let's now talk about growth and expansion. All right, a lot of products are FX driven. They are impacted by FX, and this is the reality of sales and distribution or general distribution of product. Right, no matter what it is, our market is strictly controlled by FX distribution. How do you manage pricing in a volatile system where you could bring in something? Let's talk about cars, right? Thank God you like cars, and I know you like cars. Let's talk about cars. There's been this new update now that the prices of cars should go down by a bit. Unfortunately, or fortunately, many distributors already brought in vehicles at a certain price point. Now they have to deal with people who are probably bringing new ones at the new price, right? Or when that pricing changes, they have to compete with those people. How do you, who is playing both at the top and also on the ground, how do you manage this where it doesn't become a point of conflict?
In every market, especially in emerging markets, where we have infrastructural gap and FX challenges, I tell people that you should pay attention to the patterns
Okay.
and know how to respond to informal signals faster. So you see a lot of informal signals, but know the one to trust and the one not to trust. When you pay attention to informal signals, you would know how to react to the market. I'll give you an example. You will know how to react to the market. For example, most people when you're working on a pricing table and you've seen that in the past 6 months, dollar, let's say I'm using dollar for example, have been changing just like 3 times. And the all-time high for it, let's say, is up to 2,000.
Yeah, we did hit 2000 at some point.
I'm giving an example.
Yeah.
And then you've checked over time, it has never crossed this. Most people, when working on pricing, this is pricing more than now that you're taking me into.
Yeah.
And it's not something I should talk about. We'll take the all-time high to absorb all the shock that comes after a very long time. So that's why you see some products that, as at when dollar went all-time high, they increased their price. And that price has been there for a long time. Even if there is another little increase or anything, they don't feel it.
So they stay
So
up
you
no matter
need
what.
to understand the things that are happening. I mentioned it, like you need to look at informal patterns and know the ones to trust. It comes with experience.
Yeah, because like now I'm curious, right? Even these patterns that you're talking about is supposed to be data driven, but we're in a market where data is not consistent.
So, whenever I just said something, when you asked the question when I entered, you said that you claim to work with data, that you're a data-driven professional. How do you do this? I started laughing. See, what you call data, the definition you give data in Lagos, Nigeria, we use Lagos for example, it's not the same thing. Will not mean the same thing in London or Nairobi. What makes you different, where the skill comes in emerging market, when you're talking about data-driven, it's not even about understanding data and having data, because you had a lot of informal data. Yes. I can even give you numbers. Nelson and some of the research institutes, some of the retail data we get, or even census that we do, those are just top of the market data.
Often speculative.
Yeah, a lot of the 90% flows through the informal market, informal trade. And those are not accounted for.
They're not being captured properly, yeah.
Exactly. So what makes you different with the skill there is understanding what is happening in that market than the depth of the data, and understanding it very fast with speed of time.
I want to trick you now to tell me how.
Yes, let me give you an example. Let me think of something that is very practical. Okay, in my early years in Olam, I was managing a distributor that was in a market in somewhere in Eneje, a very, very small market. And we had these van sales reps that were attached to him that goes into the stores. I saw that we are not selling. But these people are going every day. They are burning fuels. They are covering locations. But we are not selling. And I don't have any data to see whether this... What I did was I started following them out, and I noticed patterns. There are places we will go and we'll sell more. There are places you will see the first store. You need to drive another 15 minutes before you would get the second store. What I did was to now divide the beats and the route according to volume density and also breaking bulk. I don't need you, so you can break, if, let's say, for example, that you come to a place every day and you have to tell them, buy 2 cartons, buy 3 cartons, and they're not able to. Break it, give them half a dozen. No data told me that.
You made that, so it's more of an impulse decision based on what you were seeing in real-time markets.
But I'll bring you to something that you understand when I mean by understanding these informalities and knowing the ones to trust. How a distributor stock up a product they are willing to carry on credit base would give you a real picture of demand than any survey can give you.
Interesting.
When FX, you mentioned FX.
Yeah.
I just mentioned infrastructural gap with this I told you now. Now, how quickly a distributor changes their price will tell you when that FX has hit them, and also will tell you the pricing capacity of the retail chains or the people, the retail funnel that they... So you will see, they'll keep buying. But when they at the time they start saying, no, we need to change price, it will now tell you that this FX change has been able to. So in emerging markets, when you say you're data-driven, it is not about having the formal data. It is about understanding the informal signals and knowing the ones to trust.
Well, how do you manage that at scale? Because even from this story, it's easy to... It feels like work already. How do you then manage such at scale?
The question you asked me was, there are infrastructural gaps.
Yes.
So the gaps are there. So you as a human, you understand that these gaps are already existing in this market. And in as much as these data are coming, they help you to get insight. There are things that happen in the market that will give you more insight than the data will give you. The things that happen in the market, that's why I said, with speed, knowing the ones to trust with speed is not just, okay, I trust this one. You need to act fast. Because the time it is changing, it takes faster time to change than it takes for your data to even keep updating.
To catch up. Yeah, that's very true.
So it comes with experience. The more you do it, the more you understand how it comes.
So your current work spans West and East Africa, right? And of late, I've seen that you're beginning to even start paying more attention to the American market, North American market.
Yeah, I've long supported North America.
Yeah, so I've been seeing that you've been doing that, right? I think for someone who is trying to understand the rule of engagement, because it is true, it is different per person. What would you say to somebody who is trying to go, how do I engage with this market against this market? And let's make it specific to, if I'm doing East Africa, what's my rule of engagement? If I'm doing West Africa, what's my rule of engagement? If I'm doing North America, what's my rule of engagement? Especially as an African.
North America is an advanced market.
Okay.
If you plot A, you get A. If you play by the rules and by the books, if you do what you're meant to do, it will give you what it's meant to give you.
So the rule of engagement there is simply sticking to the rules.
So when I talk about advanced market, you don't need to know anybody. Just play by the books. Understand what is expected of you. If it is the retail chains that you want to go to, if it is the e-commerce like Amazon and all, play by the books. If you see people that will tell, I entered Amazon, don't ask me a question on Amazon, I won't answer. You see people that will tell you, I entered Amazon, it swallowed up my money, I didn't. Yeah. Did you play by the books? There are a lot of things there are a lot of programs that, let's say in Amazon now, for example, that you expected to do that will help your product to scale. Yeah. Did you do it? It's not about just putting product. So that's why I said you have to play strictly by the books. And if you play by the books, you would get... Business is not straightforward. And it's not an easy
never
thing.
is, yeah.
Yes. So I'm not saying that you will not face challenges or anything. But for me, I always say advanced market, if you play by the books, you expect to get results.
Okay.
But in emerging markets like us it's dynamic and it's interesting. And I always say it's sweet.
Is it?
Because sometimes you plot A, and it will give you A immediately. And you'll be like, yeah, I'm the boss. Then tomorrow you plot A and it take you to Z. You'll be like, how? Have you plotted, when you do scattered plot and you see one outlier that is flat, you're like, how?
Yeah.
Like, where did this
come
from? Exactly. So that's what you see in
emerging markets.
Yeah, emerging market. But taking it back to the question you asked me before that we just concluded, it's a difficult terrain, but it's understanding the terrain. And because of it's still an evolving market, we still have the population is there, our GDP and every other thing.
That you can leverage.
It is a market that a lot of people are coming to Africa. I was listening to, I love Ibuku Nawasika. I was listening to her speak the other day. She was giving an example and she was talking about how her investor, about a furniture business, said no, they're talking a lot of things about the Nigerian market and all. And they went to a restaurant to eat. And he said he saw a lot of French women. Like, if you do not come, other people will take up this furniture. Yeah. So the people that understand that there is gaps in the market to play with, understand it, and they're willing to play in the market. Each market have its own playbook. Each market, you have to that's why I said, at the first time when we started, you said, when you want to launch a product, I said, what are the needs of the consumer? You need to understand the consumption patterns in the market that you're going to. So it's not all about just penetrating the market. You need to understand the consumption pattern. When I was talking about modern trade, I mentioned something around patriotism, patriotic buying. You will see it in some places like East Africa. I'm giving an example now, where they will tend to patronize their home-owned brand than patronizing international brands. But in Nigeria, you will see a system where sometimes it's FOMO. In Nigeria, most consumers have all this, the fear of missing out is a thing in Nigeria. And also, if you want to get Nigerian consumers, and I'm not going to say this.
I'm really curious.
I don't want to be killed and crucified. So you see, you need to understand the peculiarity. At the long run, it is the consumers. You want to get this product to the final consumer. Exactly. So you need to understand, how do they process things? How do they think? What is their purchasing power? How do they behave?
If you were to give a yes or no answer, is there truly a rule of engagement for emerging markets?
Wow, this is tricky.
You are free to say maybe.
Maybe.
Maybe?
Yeah.
Why say maybe?
Oh, God. See, that's why I didn't want to answer that question.
Why say maybe? Because with everything you said, right, it was easy to define a growth market, a market that is already established, an established market, right? It was easy to define it that, okay, there are systems in place. But when it comes to emerging markets where sometimes it's not even, there's always the curiosity that is West Africa truly an emerging market? Because to call a market emerging is that we're now at the level to play in certain industries. Are we even playing, or are we strictly consumers, right? So if we're strictly consumers, is there truly a playbook for people like us?
So when you're talking about an emerging market, some countries produce and consume. I don't like it when we make it, when you're talking about emerging market, I will make it more of, are you a producer
or a consumer?
A consumer. I like judging emerging markets with what is seen on ground when you're developing a product.
Doesn't that also, like, if you're talking about production, doesn't buying power have a role to play there?
So it's different from what I said. Buying power is different. We are going back to you saying that it's consumption that derives whether a market is emerging or not. And I don't like saying that.
So it's not really consumption. There are different levels that these markets can play in. They can be both production and consuming, and it's okay if they're just consumption. Is that it?
Oh God, you're putting me on the spot. It's not okay if it is. Nobody just wants to be a consumer.
A consuming market, yeah.
a producer because it tells on
the economy.
on the economy of the country. Yeah. But describing emerging markets solely on that, I don't agree.
So in that case, do we have a playbook? And if we say maybe, what's stopping us? Is it infrastructure?
Yes,
or is it
infrastructural gaps. We have a lot of infrastructural gaps.
Okay.
Yes, we've already mentioned all these FX challenges. Yeah. Which is peculiar to all emerging markets.
So it's not just us, it's every type of emerging market. All right. One thing I know you've done is also business development, right? And Africa has the youngest population. And by 2030, statistics is saying that 1 in every 4 people would be African, which is amazing data-wise, right? Which is amazing. With this information, and thank God I know that you did something with the World Bank recently. So with that in play, what do you think is the best place to be in now as a builder? So you already understand the market of sales, the market of distribution, manufacturing. For anyone who is looking to build or to start, where should they be positioning themselves? Should they be positioning themselves for global export, or should they be positioning themselves better for internal distribution? Knowing what the world is trying to do when it comes to investment in our population.
I leave people to choice.
But which is the best if you were to recommend?
Everybody will always tell you to be a builder, but all of us cannot be builders. That's why I say I leave it to choice.
I see.
If all of us are building, who will be consuming?
Who will be consuming? So you don't think we should all go into the build markets now?
Nah, I just think I need you, but we need each other to work hand in hand. Okay. You should know where your strength lies. Okay. There are people that understand distribution and understand that I can't go into manufacturing. If that is where your strength lies, then you do that. If your strength lies in global distribution and all, you should do that. The World Bank you mentioned, the theme for this year's World Bank, the Youth Summit, was the future of work. So, and one thing that when the IFC MD was speaking, he talked about just knowing where your strength lies and keeping at it. The little you are doing, the world still needs it.
I see.
Yeah.
Speaking of what the little you're doing that the world still needs, what do you think the next generation of commerce builders in Africa, what do you think we're actually asking for? The world is paying attention to us now, right? What do you think we as a people, what are we asking them for? Where is the position that we are on that they will be of value to us? Is
policies that help the African market?
But isn't policy going to be more localized?
See, if I can easily move product from Nigeria to Kenya to this, Dangote was talking about it.
Yeah.
It makes the work a whole lot. Africa becomes a whole global village on its own.
So unifying the market. I like that. I like that. Because I feel like that's the pinnacle of this conversation. Exactly. We would thrive better when there is unity in how we distribute. Because it's harder.
Even in Nigeria, we're still finding it difficult to solve the distribution and logistic problem.
Here.
It's a very big problem.
Personally, I think security is playing a huge role in that. But but beyond security, what else is our limitation?
Bad roads, diesel, there's a lot.
I see.
You need to invite someone that it's in core logistics.
So you're looking at even moving stuff from the west to the north, or from the north to the south. It's still a struggle within.
Before, sometimes you see, I was reading something on LinkedIn some time ago. That was, I think, last 2 months or thereabout. And someone was mentioning how the products that they were shipping, fresh farm products, strawberries and all, did not get to Lagos. It all perished.
Just in transits.
Yeah.
Wonderful.
So I don't want to go into it. There's a lot of gap. There's a lot of gap in logistics, both internally and externally.
So fixing that is probably our biggest ask.
Yeah.
Fixing that is our biggest. That's an interesting one, though. That's a very interesting one. Thank you for giving that answer. All right. For someone who has built their career in sales, all right, and I think I want to make this even more. You said something about not everybody needs to be a builder. And I feel like that came from your personal journey, all right, where you've mostly helped brands and builders bring their products in, and you've thrived there successfully. So For someone who is looking to do that, what has your own growth and your own understanding of markets brought to you that you would want to say to the next generation of sales leaders within the African sphere?
I was in a podcast sometime last 2 weeks, and she was like, "Do I think AI is going to take my job?" And I laughed, and I said, "I don't see AI taking any salesperson's job."
Really?
Yes.
I am so curious to know why you think so.
Because I've been telling you a lot of things, and I've been telling you how it is my experience that makes me to understand what is happening. AI can do it. You feed AI data, and it gives you back. You need someone to deploy it. You need somebody to be on ground.
To execute it.
To understand what is happening. So I come from a science background. I studied biochemistry in school. Yeah. And it was a decision to enter into the commercial. It was a simple decision. I was talking to my mentor then when I came out from school, and I asked my mentor, where do people that study biochemistry, where do they work in Nigeria? And he said, most of them are plant managers. And I said, plant managers? I said, when he said, yes, some of them are quality. I said, what's the highest level they get to? And he said, most of them he knows. Probably there are a lot of people, not to talk down on, nah. So, and he said, oh, most of them are quality assurance people. They work in the labs, they did this. I'm like, okay. And I asked him, what of all those MDs, those people say he's the managing director, he now says some of them, they are in commercial. I said, what is commercial? He said, finance, sales, marketing. I said, speak no more. I said, speak no more. That's where I want to be. I said, so far I'm in Nigeria and I have not left this country. I'm in commercial. And he started laughing. And when I started serving, actually, I followed it through. I started applying to graduate trainees, in KPMG, in Olam, and all that. In Olam, I wrote sales because I asked him then, he said, yeah, sales. I said, I wrote sales. That's what I wanted. KPMG, audit, finance. Just that way he said it to me. That's how I wrote it. And I finished with my KPMG process, but I was still serving. And they said, when you finish service, then. Yeah. But when I finished serving, I now got Olam. Olam was the first. I now started with Olam in sales, and the rest they say is history. But even when I came into the sales, I didn't stop there. I did not. I wanted to really learn more. I still have most of them in my life, and they always say, Chidinma, I'm proud of you. I'm less than a decade.
In the industry, yes, and you've come really far.
Yes, I'm less than a decade.
Yeah.
But what I did different was I always looked outside to get myself better. I'll give you an example. When I was a graduate trainee, I was managing just the market. I don't want to go into the story of what happened in one of the markets I was doing. I made them give me 7 markets to manage as a graduate trainee.
Interesting.
Yeah. And when I was finishing my graduate school in Olam, I had a key account person that wanted to leave. I just had to go to LinkedIn to tell someone to teach me about key accounts. When the person left, I was interviewed and I took the role. So growing commercially has been my own intention of looking for other ways to get better, other ways so that I'll keep growing. So it made me to grow between marketing, distribution, key account management, and now I manage a cross-functional team that made me to understand how supply chain works and all. So what I would say to someone that is coming up is, do not look at the job like you're doing it to get your money. Look at it like, this is what I am doing for myself to get better.
Yeah, because I like how this sounds, because it's when people talk career, and it's funny because my wife and I were having a conversation yesterday, and we were talking about how when you want to start a career, and what we say is you think go to school, graduate, you serve, and then you look for a company that just is gonna help you. I like that in your case there was a mentor in that conversation who and even how the story was told, like sitting down to go, who becomes the MD? I feel like many people don't even ask that question. So they pick a career path where no matter how they go or how far they get to, they never sit at the top of that. Like they will never get there. And it's not because it is cost, it's just because of the path they've chosen from the beginning. So having a mentor tell you, oh, the only type of people that sits here, the people that sits here, this is what they do over time. That's amazing. That's insightful. Because looking at the conversation we were having yesterday, it was just a question of how do we get people to know that the straight line only makes sense if you have plans. And in this case, it's like, yes, you had plans, but you also had mentors who were able to tell you, look here, go there. And then there was a personal hunger to even take opportunities that you saw. And honestly, if we're leaving this conversation at this point, I feel like that's a brilliant point, knowing how helpful it will be for me, even me now, because I'm beginning to think, sure, I should not come and do sales and distribution like this. So I'm very grateful for this conversation. There's a question I used to ask, and I want to ask you. If there was one question you wish I asked, what would that question be? Something that you want to talk about, but then I never got to talk about. What would that be?
Well, you invited me, and you have your reasons for inviting me. So I assume that you already have the questions you want to ask, and you have the answers to them. I believe I just did justice
so
to that. Yeah, so I don't have any question. So I think
so
you already
political.
know.
I like, at least now we now know how you made your way through. There's a lot of politics. I'm happy. That means like, I think that's good. I think that's good. I think that gives the conversation a good closer. Thank you so much for having this conversation with me. Thank you for the answers you provided. I like that they were technical, but at the same time, they were detailed enough to ensure that whosoever is listening can learn. I learned a lot from this. So thank you so much.
Thank you, Scott. Thank you.